Welcome back, folks. MTG Joe here. Today we're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder for each respective format. This particular video is for the historic best of one format. If you're looking for best of three, standard, explore. I've gotten some feedback, actually folks want to see alchemy, so I'll pull that together once we get enough data from the recent Baldur's Gate set. And really what we do is we look at UntapGG, which is a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client. Tracks your win rates, loss rates, aggregates all this data into the matrix that we're looking at today. Also has like collection syncing and stuff like that. Free to use a whole bunch of functionality. Link is in the video description down below. In addition, I'll post all these deck lists into the video description so you could easily import those. Now, kicking off for historic, this is the week of July 7th through the 12th right now, a little less than a week. And notably what happened is we got some nerfs in the format. Notably, as in addition to Alchemy, so Unholy Heat got nerfed, it only deals 4, DRC got nerfed, Cauldron Familiar, the cat can no longer block, Cat Oven hopefully is dead, so that got nerfed, Meat Hook got nerfed, so a couple cards that are no longer potentially as relevant in the format. Given that, we're probably still going to see a lag in some of these Eternal formats to see dramatic swings. It wasn't necessarily a ban, but just a nerf in the sense that it potentially is a ban. Cat, while you do have the sack synergies, a lot of it was just, here's your 10/10 creature with no trample. It's going to get blocked in eternity by the cat. So we'll see how that kind of shapes up. In general, I've noticed a little bit slower for some of the Eternal formats this week in terms of available data, so I might have to hold off a day or so on Explore, as well as Alchemy, just to give enough time for the new set, but I'll see what data is available and what I could piece together for this week. So, having said that, we will jump into it. 17,000 matches of historic best of one over the 5-day span, a little bit lower than usual. We usually see it in the 20 to 30,000, I think. Top performing deck of the week is Elves, just under 70%. You'll notice a lot of things grayed out. I don't own most of the Elves. I don't like that deck. So I haven't crafted it, but you can see with collections and stuff like that, the cards I need to build it. But really this is a combo kind of creature deck. You're trying to get a bunch of ways to cheat mana. So you have things like Elvish Archdruid that generates a ton of mana. You have growing rates of Itlimoc to generate a lot of mana. And then you're just going to spam the board and go wide. Elvish Warmaster makes a bunch of tokens. Dwynen's Elite makes tokens. You have the Lord effects in Archdruid, Clancaller, as well as the Imperious Perfect. You can see a copy of Freyalise in there. And what you're trying to do is win kind of one of three ways. Generate a bunch of mana in typical cases. Then pump it either to Elvish Warmaster to anthem your team, Allosaurus Shepherd to anthem your team, or you can, as my opponents, always have the Craterhoof after Coco on turn 5, or you could Fierce Empath into the Craterhoof to give your team a whole overrun style ability. This deck is very susceptible to board wipes typically. It's kind of a glass cannon. It will either completely overrun, or if they pick apart, you tend to die. I just don't typically like decks that are super reliant on not getting swept, but a lot of people do like the Elf strategy. It is obviously doing well at 69%. But yeah, that is Elves. Jumping into the next deck, bit of a drop, 62%. This is it Wizards? This deck you should just be playing Jegantha as your companion. It's a free roll. But you're playing with the buffed Symmetry Sage that makes, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you trigger Magecraft. Your creatures with base power become 3. So with something like Prowess, how it works is Soul-Scar Mage with base power would become 3, and then the Prowess stacks on top of that. So you get the added bonus. In addition, it works really nice with stuff like Dreadhorde Arcanist. Now you can flashback Expressive Iteration, you can flashback Static Discharge, you can flashback Wizard's Lightning, all kind of playing into that. You also have in this version Sprite Dragon, so it's a little bit more prowessy than the full kind of Wizards package. You have the 12 Wizards to still hit your Wizard, right? Yeah. Wizard's Lightning, but just lots of burn in this deck. You have Reckless Charge, which can just do a bunch of burst damage with the haste and prowess style abilities. You have Card Advantage and Expressive Iteration, Consider, and Crash Through mixed into there. This also has a very low land count, so you just have a higher density of spells. Static Discharge is a very good card, especially when you can flash back multiple times. Just does a lot of burn damage in that regard. Then we move into Esper Greasefang. So similarities to the historic version, but also some differences. This version is not all in on the combo. It's got combo capabilities, I'd say, but it's really just creature heavy mid-range deck with the kind of combo kill. Historic compared to Explorer gives you Esper Sentinel, which is just a beast. Imagine playing this turn 1 against this Izzet deck where they just can't pay for the mana and you just get to draw a bunch of cards. You're using stuff like Ledger Shredder, Season Hallowed Blade, the Connive package of Diviner, Fates, and Rafine to put cards into your graveyard. Inquisitor Captain gets to find any of these creatures for you, and then you also have the Greasefang Parhelion combo, as well as Thalia to tax your opponent. So if you're into the Greasefang decks, check that one out. Mono Red Aggro, a deck that I hold very dear to my heart in Historic. Pretty stock, so the versions you see are like, if they're on Vortex, if they're not. The big differentiation here is what the meta is like in terms of decks. If you're seeing a lot of graveyard-focused combos, stuff like Dragonstorm, Mizzix Mastery, Control, stuff like that, you're going to want to be on the Roiling Vortex plan. If you see Rakdos Arcanist, for example, as well. Right now, we're seeing a lot of creature-based decks, as well as the Mirror and Mono Red. I typically don't like Vortex in those matchups because you're often racing, and that if you're on the play, if you're on the draw, then you're already behind in some decks. Depending on your draw, you might not be able to push damage, and it kind of screws up your math. That's usually like my flex card. I'll take a look in a sec. I forget my exact configuration. We'll take a look in a sec. But basically, Kumano buffs your team. Reckless Ringleader gives haste to your stuff. This is a fairly stock package. You got your free mana, your multiple creatures, and your robbers. I think you should be on 4 Bone Crushers. I think I'm on 2 Torbrands in my version. You should also be on 4 Ferocidons. While we don't see it here, Life Gain and Angels is very popular. There's also stuff like Absorb and various other cards that just incidentally gain life to turn those off. The Menace is also relevant in a lot of cases. You have Chain Whirler as well, deals kind of incidental damage. If you have a Torbrand out and you do Chain Whirler, it deals 3 damage to each creature on your opponent's side of the board, so kind of free value there. Mana base wise, 24 lands is the ideal amount for this mono red deck. Don't skimp. You have a lot of utility lands. Let's just take a look at mine. Mono red. So I have a 64% win rate. Lifetime, I'm like really high. So if we look constructed, we can look current set and previous set. 175 and 97. With this deck, I have like tons of different versions. So I'm on 2 Torbrand in mine. I went back to the 1 Vortex. I'm using a couple Lightning Strikes. So the worst matchup for this deck is Izzet Wizards, I typically find. Lightning Strike helps in a lot of these matchups. Helps your because you're not a burn deck. You're also a little bit worse into the Elves matchup because they can gum up the board. And a lot of these decks have moved off Embercleave, so you don't have that way to kind of combo kill. I like the Lightning Strike as a couple copies in there just as additional burn. Bone Crusher breaks like 9 lives of Sarah's Emissary locks as well. 4 Ferocidons, also very good like example into the Elves deck. My mana base, the 3 Den, Ramanop, you should be playing a Sokuzan, and I'm playing 1 Castle as utility land. So you're on 24 lands, but a lot of times you have that value. You can also see like in events, I have a 66% win rate. Had a bad run there in this last one. Kind of went back to the Roiling Vortex. Was Control, Mono White that I didn't draw the life gain, and Izzet Wizards, which is the worst matchup. Wizards just has a combination of a fast clock, 0-3 body, like 3 toughness bodies that are hard to attack into, and a lot of incidental burn to take out your creatures. All that paired in is really good. But you can see, like, I'll link my profile. You can see all the decks that I play and stuff like that and win rates. Like some of them really good. You can see events and stuff. So these are decks that we don't have win rates yet, but they're cool decks. That's something to just keep in mind. There's just not a volume of games yet to really track. But this is a infinite combo Displacer Kitten deck. So the combination, Displacer Kitten, says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you exile up to 1 non-permanent, enters the battlefield, so you get to blink it. So what you do is with Teferi Time Raveler out, and specifically with Teferi out, your opponent can't interact with this combo on your turn. So with Teferi out, what you do is you cast Mox Amber, you target the Teferi, it gets exiled. Or you can already have Teferi out on the battlefield. Teferi then picks up the Mox Amber, you get to draw a card, and you get to float a mana. You then play the Mox, exile Teferi, bring it back, float a mana, pick it back up to hand, rinse and repeat, draw through your entire deck, make as much mana as needed, and then what you're going to do is win through either Approach the Second Sun or Jace Wielder of Mystery, drawing out your deck. Other than that, it's just a blue-white control deck that happens to have a combo finish into it. And then there's Selesnya Humans. This deck's kind of floated around from time to time. You're just packing the full 8 of kind of Collected Company Inquisitor Captain style effects. You also get access to Ranger Captain of Eos that lets you tutor up a package of 1-ofs, like Dauntless Bodyguard, Giant Killer, and Thraben Inspector, and then your Esper Sentinels. Thalia's Lieutenant's very, very good. Buffs your team. You got Thalia to tax, got Skyclave Apparition, which was a human and now has died, kind of playing into that as well. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you're playing in Historic post-ban. If you're still running into Cat Ovens, how they're doing. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a safe one.